Hello, everyone. This is Reza. Welcome to the R&D show.
Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thanks for joining our show.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And what's this week all about? We typically ask each other, how has our week been? I don't think we're going to ask that question because Dan and I know this very well, that we've been spending a lot of time watching sessions at MS Ignite. We divided and we conquered. I hope so. And our session today is all about Ignite, the top announcements. So we won't be wasting any time. We're going to get straight into it. And we will start our session on Microsoft Ignite top announcements and highlights.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, so as we go ahead and get started, one of the neat things was they shared that there is 90 plus updates, but they kept getting this one, re-planning that they are doing. Not so much as planning, but what is their theme? So Satya talked about it. If you don't know who Satya is, he's the CEO of Microsoft. Kind of should know who he is. But Satya talked about it. Alyssa talked about it. Even Scott Guthrie talked about it. Is that this is what their Microsoft Cloud is? They didn't kind of group it together, but they were always, giving that impression that this is how they internally at Microsoft are looking at how the cloud is broken down. And obviously, for all of us on this call, there is the business applications over there. There's the infrastructure over there. So they've kind of grouped this, which honestly, this sat really well with me, and that's why I wanted to just start off with this little information. And then obviously Scott Guthrie gave some really good information. Like, this is what Microsoft Cloud is right now. I mean, 60 plus data centers across 35 countries with data residency in those countries. And then 24 trillion plus data signals, which are constantly being done at a daily basis. This statistics really sat well with me. But anyway,
I'm wondering how much do we contribute to those 24 trillion signals?
We probably do have a big bit of a input over there. So let's just jump in to these top Ignite news which is there, and then we'll kind of dwell on that in the different categories. But the first one, which all of us were excited about, was Microsoft Loop. It was the first thing that was announced. It was the new thing that was announced, and that was the big wow factor, right? Each and every one of them talked about it. So here's Microsoft Loop.
Microsoft Loop is a standalone application that will be released in 2022. And as the name itself suggests, it's going to loop in all your work in one space. And in this app, you will have three components. One is known as workspaces. Workspaces are more like groupings of content, and you can bring in any form of content. You can bring in OneNote, you can bring in your meeting, your data from Outlook, you can bring in data from Planner, and all of the other M365 services all into this group, which is known as a workspace.
Yep. And then the next thing is Pages. One of the things I liked about Pages is the ability to do it, co-authoring, and also how Pages are able to work so easily. So, like, for example, over here, you're going ahead and putting in some bullet points of marketing ideas. As you can see how if you focus on each of the mouse over there, it tells you, hey, this person is doing co-authoring. That's you. There's somebody else. That's Serena, Kian. All of these people are doing co-authoring together. And at the end of the day, it's the functionality is just a page. But this collaboration and co-authoring is the great one available. So that is on Pages. The next one is on Components.
Components. So for anyone who has been following developments around the SharePoint framework, there was a concept announced last year, which was known as the Fluid Framework. And what the Fluid Framework allowed us to do is to build these code components that we could plug in different applications in M365. And the beauty is, as you make changes to that code component in one application, it will reflect live in the other application. So those Fluid components are now Microsoft Loop components. And if you look at this GIF that's being run right now, in this, there are different types of components that are being offered. Status tracking, ideas, and there are many more coming. Plus, with the SharePoint framework, we have the ability to go ahead and build our own custom code components and put them inside Microsoft Loop to enhance our day-to-day work experience.
Yeah, what I like in this next slide which we have is that it shows that this components how it will work inside the a Microsoft Teams. So it's the ability to go ahead and take this loop, and loop will come straight into Microsoft Teams. It can be in Yammer, could be in OneNote, it could be on your actually in those ones. See, moment you start typing it in, it will you have the flexibility to select, oh, here's the one of the loops that I've been working on. And when you put it in, it does a really good framework of just embedding in the entire work that you did, as against just showing it as a link. So this loop is honestly, Reza, I thought this was a big one. Kept hearing about that across other sessions as well. So I'm pretty excited about this one. Cool. All right. So now let's jump into the next topic that was talked about, and that is Context IQ. This was also a big announcement. So we definitely thought that we should talk about this Context IQ. And as the name suggests, it puts in its intelligence in the context of what you're working on. And the best thing we can do is show you an example. So here's a person who is actually typing in an email, right, directly inside your Outlook. And they are saying that, okay, the sentence or the statement over there says most regions strategic thinking is all about Mona's doc. And the moment that information comes in, like there's somebody's name, what is the context? It's talking about Mona's document. It gives you a suggestion. Hey, here is actually Mona's document. It's a Word document. Would you like to put that in? And so that IQ, which is basically just AI kicking in directly away into your, the context of what you're working on, the service that you're using, which in this case is just Outlook. At that point in time, it gives you, more information to put in at that time. It's a context IQ. So there's some heavy AI work put in over here, and that actually caught my attention on this one.
So this is basically your predictive assistant. Now that's going to be made available throughout M365. The goal here is collaboration, and with artificial intelligence being baked in, this is going to take our experience to the next level in M365. So one of the examples I can give you is I'm sending an email to Dan. We are planning the R&D show, and I want to set up a meeting for, let's say, Thursday of next week. Predictive or Context IQ can literally go in there, check both our calendars, figure out on that specific date when there is times open, and actually send an invite for us. So this is AI, and this Context IQ component is also going to come in later on in some of the Power Platform announcements. So be on the lookout for that one.
Yep, and I think we've got that covered in one of our other slides as well. So you know what? Let's just dive into the Power Platform. So the next set of updates we're going to talk about is across Power Platform. And as you said, you talked about Power Platform. So when we go through all the slides, we'll be talking about Power Apps, we'll be talking about Power Automate. Some of them are together. So kind of just keep that in mind as we're going in different ways. But one of the things is, now remember, when we started off, we showed you, how the other CEO was also talking. Satya was talking about how the Microsoft was defined in those different categories. What I liked over here is when I started attending day 2 with all about the business applications one, this was now from a business application standpoint, the strategy for the Microsoft Cloud. So here's the Microsoft Cloud on the top, and then the next tier is the Microsoft 365 and the Dynamics 365, which sits on top of Power Platform, which sits on top of Azure, and most importantly, sits on top of identity, security, management, and compliance. I really liked this, look and feel of how it was defined. But the next slide is even better, because it takes it from the whole context of, well, you have all of these great things. You have, data, Azure, Power Platform, but sit on top of it is where ISVs can actually go ahead and leverage all of this, put in their own work, and make some money on this one as well. It's more of a help us help you type of scenario. I kind of really liked this one, Reza. This one stuck with me really well.
This looks like a sandwich to me, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But like Reza, this will stick really well with you, because the whole concept of, again, all those different layers. But then the top one, it says that it works on all of these device operating systems as well. So the way this was always announced was one of those big things that I kind of grabbed. It's like, well, this is not a new announcement, but this analogy really sat well with us. So we just thought we'll present that away. But let's jump to the next big one. Almost, if anybody's on the call or doing a drum roll, please, this is a drum roll, because this next one was huge.
Pay as you go. If you have worked with Power Apps or Power Automate, and you ever ran into a scenario wherein you needed premium licensing, you had to license each of your users individually. However, now with this new announcement, we have a third layer for licensing, which is known as pay-as-you-go. Basically, you pay for what you use only after you use it. And this ties in with your Azure subscription. So you take an environment in the Power Platform, tie that environment with an Azure subscription. And once you do that, you get this billing profile that gets created for that environment. Then in that environment, you as the environment admin decide which apps need to adhere to this new licensing scheme, which is pay as you go. And then your Power Apps would be metered in terms of how many users are accessing the application. And then all that gets added to your Azure costs that you can track directly in the cost management center in Azure.
In fact, one of the things we kind of missed in the slide, I want to, before I move on ahead, was this, what Reza just said was Power Apps to your Azure subscription gives you this functionality, is that a Power Apps per meter, Dataverse overage meter, and then the Power Platform request coverage meter. So it takes care of all of these important things, because now you are working on subscription basis, you've got that functionality. So here was just the example of the Azure subscription, but then here's also the new pricing model that comes along with it, where you have the option now to do pay-as-you-go plan, and here is the plan around it. Now, when I was attending this session, Reza, one of the things, the examples really stood out to me, because there were two scenarios on where pay-as-you plan can go. One of them is, apps that are needed for those very large use cases, like an app that is used for an HR service, where pretty much everybody in the company needs to use that app, or even another one for a financial services. Again, enterprise level, everybody needs that app, but people only use it occasionally. Yeah. Well, this is a great scenario for that. Pay-as-you-go is a perfect scenario for those large users, but on an occasional basis. And then another example which I liked was when you're just getting started with Power Apps and you really don't know how many licenses you need to buy, go with this model. Because by the time you started using it, Power Apps gets comfortable in your company, you get a good idea of, okay, this is basically how many licenses I'm going to need. May add a little buffer to that, but those numbers start getting a little bit more clear too. And then finally, your team of developers, they're already plugged into your Azure systems. They're already plugged into subscription bases. They don't have to go through this whole procurement process to get all these other licenses assigned to them. No, none of that. You just go ahead and start leveraging Azure subscriptions. Basically, Azure subscriptions is a tried and tested way, and they are just going ahead and plugging in the Power Apps pricing. I kind of really like that. So let's just speed up on some of the processes.
And then I would just like to add something to this slide. So if you look at the subscription plans, the ones on the left, if you focus on the pricing has changed as well for the good. The prices have gone down by half. So if you need the per user, per app plan, that's $5 per user per month. So that's changed. And so is the per user per month plan, which gives you access to unlimited apps. All of these pricing plans have their space inside the Power Platform licensing scheme. There are reasons why you would use one over the other. There could be a scenario in which a subscription plan or the pay-as-you-go plan, for example, does not suffice, and a subscription plan makes more sense. So you got to figure out which route you would want to take. One more announcement that kind of went under the hoods during Microsoft Ignite is that the premium licensing plans for Power Automate, one of the biggest challenges there was the API limits, also known as how many actions in a flow you can run in a 24-hour period per user license. Now with the premium plan for Flow, the per user Flow plan, the number of API calls has gone up from 5,000 to 40,000, 8 times more. That's huge.
That is big.
And the per Flow plan has gone from, I believe it was 10,000. Now it's gone up to 250,000. So they've increased the limits so much that you don't have to be thinking about those limits unless, of course, you've built flows that are just looping and running through millions of records. So it's important to call those things out as well. But bear in mind, the new plan is great. It's subscription based. It's based upon usage. It's metered. You have to apply it at an environment level and then apply it at an app level. So there are additional steps you need to take in order to leverage that pay-as-you-go plan.
Yeah, cool. So let's just actually take a little bit of that. We've got some good information here. So the pay-as-you-go billing, this is how it works. It's just like Reza said, it is done at an environment level. And then your entire environment is connected to a subscription. And then after that, you go ahead and select the app you want. And then on the right, you will have the app settings. This is where you go and say, I'm going to set up pay as you go for that app. So you've already got ahead and set up your environment. You've gone ahead and set up a, through Azure payment subscription, you set up a billing policy for that environment. And then you go ahead and connect to all the subscription. You go and connect to the resource group. And then the next and the final step is you go ahead and set that up on the Power App or the PPAC or the Power Platform Admin Center, going ahead and just completing the remaining steps. And this just shows you how you can go ahead and assign it at the environment level, all the environments that are tied to it. Again, you're still creating the billing policy. But this is also pretty neat because in addition to all of this, the setup that you've done, now you get a good handle on just checking to see how the usage and the expense is going on. Because let's think about it. You might have a situation where you've got some peak hours, but then you've also got some low time. And then the stats will tell you, okay, these are my high hours, these are my low hours. And you can do a little bit of predictive, analysis just to understand how your payment and your expenses going. So the billing itself, pay as you go, is huge, but the analysis that is providing over here, the cost analysis directly through the Azure, is going to be really helpful for that pay as you go. I'm pretty happy about this, Reza. This is actually a perfect step in the right direction, and I think it will be well received.
Absolutely. Number one request, give me a calculator. Show me how much consumption is going on. Show me where my money is going. And this is it. Go to the Azure Cost Management Billing Center, and you can exactly look at what's going on for that specific environment or that billing profile that's set up.
Yep. And then, going ahead and, oh yeah, man, this is a big one that we also kind of want to talk about is besides the fact that you can go ahead and see all the expenses, you can go ahead and put in a budget cap. It's like, hey, here's my budget. I don't want to go over something else. So you actually go and put in the amount threshold that I just want to be cautious of my spending as well. Now, this is something that you will have to go and make an educated guess. Again, the cost analysis will help you, but you've got this flexibility over here. And then I also like that, they've given you this app meter places over here to go ahead and, say, okay, here's the meter count of my user count that I have, and then the Dataverse storage meter over there. Pretty neat stuff.
We've been having some questions in the chat that I've been answering along. And one of the questions was, how much capacity does that environment get? Well, that environment gets 2 GB for that specific environment for which you create that billing profile. So 2 GB is what gets allocated. It's for the entire environment. If you need additional capacity, you can purchase that as well. And of course, all of that will go into the Azure Billing Center. The left-hand side chart there is pretty neat because it shows you how the Power Apps pay-as-you-go plan literally works, right? You might have a couple of users accessing the app in January, so you end up paying X amount of dollars because you have a certain user base. As that increases, the cost increases. As it drops, the cost drops. So it depends upon how many users are consuming those apps.
Yep. Yeah, this just sits very well with me because they heard this feedback which you've been giving them for a few years now, and they took that feedback, and I think they worked on it for a while, and now this pay as you go is out, but they've given you all these the accessories to kind of help you plan accordingly and keep an eye on that. So this really sat really well with me. I was super excited about that. I'm glad that it's finally out, and I hope a lot of people will leverage that. All right, so let's go ahead and now talk about the Fusion team. So Fusion team is not so much more as a new service. It is how to go ahead and leverage it. So as you can see in this slide deck, there is the professional developers, and then there is the business analysts, and then the IT professional. So the ability to go ahead and fuse this talent and go ahead and do a holistic service usage is one of the whole concept of the Fusion team. So let's actually dive a little bit more on that. Is first in preview is enabling the concept of Fusion teams, and it kind of gets broken down into 3 different categories. So let's spend a little bit more time in each of them. The first one being is the Power Apps, mobile apps, and iOS to any apps over there.
So here the big announcement was delivering apps to any device. So you can package and distribute your Power Apps as mobile apps that can be leveraged on any store, Google Store, Apple Store, and so on and so forth. The beauty is you will distribute all your apps through MDM, which is mobile device management, and through tools also known as Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So Power Apps running as native mobile apps. So what's the difference here, Raza? Well, instead of going and installing the Power Apps app, then opening that application, then going and searching for your specific app, you don't have to do that. You can deploy your app as a standalone mobile app. Think about that. You can add your own company's branding. You can add your own theming components there. And not just that, you can package multiple apps together into a single package. And here is an example of that, wherein you have this mobile app component that you build. You add all your Canvas applications within it. You package that and push it out to the App Store. So this is big. Because it gives a lot more flexibility in terms of deployment of these apps as independent mobile apps. For folks like me who used to do things like save a shortcut to the Power App so I can click on a little icon on my mobile device, which launches the Power Apps mobile app, which then launches that framework, that piece is now going to vanish away. And in fact, in the next slide, I really like this slide, to be very honest with you, because this truly talks about what this is all about. Since I'm deploying this as a standalone mobile app, what is changing? Well, nothing is changing. Your identity is still Azure, right? You're still going to have that sign-in screen experience that you can customize and brand. Then the next part is your coding logic. Is anything changing there? Do I need to learn new tech, how to deploy applications? No. It's the same Power FX formulas. It's the same Power Apps Maker experience for you. Nothing changes there. Data sources. Is it limited to specific data sources? No, it's not. I know we are highlighting Dataverse there, but this could be any data source of your choice, just like you do today in Power Apps. And finally, none of the native capabilities of the mobile experience will be taken away from you. So if you're leveraging the camera control, the GPS position, if you're leveraging any of those mobile device capabilities offline in your Power Apps, all of those capabilities will be right here available for us as well.
Cool. All right, let's keep on going with the same momentum. So when it comes to collaboration, there needs to be a way for people to go ahead and collaborate together about the single app. So over here, we've got this video going, this GIF going, where Reza is actually working on a Canvas app that he's building over there, but he's got now a flexibility to go ahead and put in comments. So when Reza and I are working on the same app for whatever reason, Reza can come and say, hey, Daniel, this one section or this one screen of the app, needs to be updated because some branding is missing, or I can go ahead and put in comments for somebody else. This collaborative effort is all coming in thanks to this comments, which is currently in preview. A couple of things about this comments, though. This comment is very similar to, say, you are working on, collaborating together on a Microsoft Word document. You are able to go ahead and, highlight some stuff on the Word document. I mean, that's not new, but I'm just giving you an example. You talk about a Word document, you're highlighting it. People are able to go ahead and edit it at the same time. That type of commenting that is available in Microsoft Word or Office is the same concept over here. This section and all this availability, this piece, what you're seeing, this comment which is built in, is not Microsoft Teams. Let me say that again. This commenting is directly built into Power Apps. This is not Microsoft Teams. This is just the collaborative feature, which is an add-on directly into Power Apps. It's kind of important for you to understand that difference.
So I got the opportunity to actually try this out. And this GIF, by the way, is created by me. This is not picked up from anywhere. So the thing about this, what I liked honestly about this is two things. One, you can have a conversation while you're building an app, right? This is collaboration. Another thing is, if you notice there, you can even create a thread of conversations wherein I ask a question and then Dan comes in and maybe responds to that. And I can close out the thread. So you have the option there to even say, this thread is resolved, like a Q&A. And me being the geek that I am, I also noticed that all of this is actually getting stored in a table in Dataverse. So all of these commands go there. Of course, if you want to scan that out, you will have to query Dataverse. But that's one of the big announcements was around this commenting feature, which is not just in apps, but as we move to the next slide, the same experience is also being brought for us inside of Power Automate and inside of Power Virtual Agents. So this collaboration experience is spanning across the Power Platform suite of services.
Cool. All right, let's keep going. Next thing, extending collaborations to pro devs. The ability to go ahead and have, the developers are able to go ahead and enable the Git integration from apps to provide source code integration, version history, and everything. Basically, all that's said and done, you're collaborating for collaborations for the pro devs to go ahead and do all the work in your Git source over there, and multiple developers can work together on branches of the same app, and then their changes are merged together, and you can see the outcome of the changes directly inside the apps. You're doing it outside the app, collaborating together, but the changes come directly inside the app. So I was pretty impressed. I'm sure there are developers watching this, and they're going to give a double thumbs up to this one.
So okay, let me add one thing on that. So
Yeah.
how many times have you gone to a Power App and you've tried to make a modification to that Power App, and you got the message that someone else has this app opened and they're editing it?
Yeah.
How many times have you run into that scenario? This is co-authoring, literally, inside of Power Apps and backed by GitHub. So all the code commits, merges, all of those will happen automatically. That's the word, automatically at the back end for you. And all you're doing right here is you're syncing those changes, which is basically Git merges happening at the back end seamlessly for us. So this is big. This is going to come out next year. I'm extremely excited about trying this out. It's there as an experimental feature today, but it's very limited to start with. But as this grows, I think this is going to be something big, wherein you can have multiple devs working together at the same time on a single app, which is big. And the same thing goes for flows as well, by the way.
Right. Got it. All right, let's keep going. Open source PowerFX, low code everywhere. So we are aware of PowerFX, and we know that it's the next step forward for all the citizens, developers over there in all the use. This is actually just taking it to the next level when you're able to now go ahead and do concise type of getting the checking of your existing professional tools, workflows using Visual Studio Code and GitHub, just like we talked about. You can go ahead and use this for Power Apps, the Canvas apps, model-driven apps, and even the formula columns over there. Anything else you want to add to this one, Reza?
So open source, meaning you can take PowerFX into and use it in any other language or take it to any other editor of your choice. If anyone is following if anyone is following an MVP known as Hero, please follow him on Twitter. He's awesome. So what he did, he actually took the PowerFX open source and used it in Windows Forms. So when he was creating a Windows Form application, he was actually using PowerFX code right there. So take this power and use it outside, or of course, PowerFX is spanning across the Power Platform anyways. So use it and learn it.
Yeah, awesome. All right, the next big one was adaptive cards using Power Apps, and this is a big one. So I almost should have given this one a drum roll. This is going to be available in a public preview as early as beginning of next year. But one of the things we want to talk about is that this is now coming in Power Apps, because many of you would hear say, well, adaptive cards is not new, and understood, it is not new. It was available in Power Automate, and many of you have actually used it after putting it in Teams. Reza has actually done a video on that. But the ability to go ahead and use that directly into Power Apps is the new one. They're actually taking the really tried, tested, awesome functionality and now putting into Power Apps. So this is the big new and the big wow factor on the Power Apps side. Taking what's available in Power Automate, now making that available in Power Apps as well, as early as 2022, the preview version on that.
What I'm excited about here is the fact that you are getting the entire card making experience inside of Power Apps. So it's not just about submitting a card. It's about creating the card, visualizing it inline. On the left-hand side, I'll try and go full screen here. On the left-hand side, you actually have that card component interface where you can drag and drop elements into the center, create your card, save your card, and literally just use it right out of the box inside of Power Apps. That is going to be extremely cool and something that I'm extremely looking forward to.
Cool. All right, so what we want to do now is just switch gears a little bit. We're still going to stay in the Power Apps realm. We want to switch gears a little bit because this is still equally important, is the Power Platform adoption guidance. So again and again, we keep hearing that, hey, Power Apps, even though we've been playing with it for 5 years, is still new in certain companies. People have made the decision. We're going to invest into it, both from using a standpoint, training it. How do we go ahead and get adopt this in our country? Can you provide us some guidance? And this is it. They've now actually gone ahead and given you an entire guidance. Basically, they're helping you with the guidance to guide in your company. So the link is down there. There's the AKA MS. They've actually given you a step-by-step breakthrough. This is also where the Center of Excellence of the COE falls under, but there is so much more. This will actually, if you fall under one of those places where Power Platform is still new, and you are going to now, go ahead and now started in using in your company, introduce it in your company, then this is one of the things you definitely want to take a look at. See that AKA link down there? Go ahead and check it out and start leveraging this, because besides the fact that it has the cool COE, this is really going to help adopting Power Platform in your company over there. Pretty excited about that. Cool. All right, let's go and take a look at the new Microsoft Search integration. The big one over here in the search integration piece is that now the Microsoft Search can also go and query in Dataverse, which means users can actually find Dataverse information as part of the Microsoft 365 search results over there. And key thing is this is the Bing, the actual Bing which works in the back end, is now able to go ahead and integrate with Dataverse and query against Dataverse. It gives you the Dataverse results as well. Same, and that also includes your Microsoft 365 OS. As you can see, it includes the Microsoft 365 because both of Microsoft 365 Power Platform are talking to the same Dataverse. But it's right now as we stand, it is going to be the Bing. It'll come out in Office.com. It will also be in the SharePoint.com. This main search integration that we use across Microsoft 365 will now be able to search and query across Dataverse as well. Pretty excited about this one.
And just to add something on this, I actually went to try this out. What you need to do is you need to go to the environment and turn on the searching capability for that specific Dataverse database. So it's an extra step, but once you turn that on, you can pick the tables you would like to include in search, and you can also add your column indexes. So pretty cool. I actually tried this out. Did not have the time to plug in the GIF.
Yeah, no cool, no worries. All right, so a lot of you know how I behave. I always say security first, performance later, which is why this was really close to my heart. Conditional access policies on individual apps. We've actually had a chance to play with this. Long story short is that there might be one of those really secure, high profile type of apps that you want to go ahead and put in a authentication, like a multi-factor authentication for those apps. And this is what does it. Again, examples could be those really highly secure apps, could be for financial reasons, HR reasons, or just private information being used in that apps. You want to make it take the security to the next level. MFA can be added over here. So this actually was something which was really close to my heart, because I'm a big fan of security first, performance later. Anything you want to add to that, Reza?
No, I think the key here is individual apps, and you can identify what those apps are. And I think you can even leverage PowerShell to push this out. So if you're planning to push this out for multiple apps, don't forget PowerShell is your friend.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Now let's go and talk about how they they seamlessly integrate with data in your Microsoft Teams. So Teams is pretty much everywhere. So the concept of work seamlessly with your data in Microsoft Teams allows you to link, to paste links in Microsoft Teams. And basically get a full, useful summaries over there. So the example that we've put is, it's very similar to what we had talked about previously as well, is when you put in a link, it generates a data card and it presents the data in that data card. So you don't just see links, but what you see is rich summary of the data directly inside Teams just by pasting that link. And you can see this example over here is that data card is generated, but it is user-friendly data card, which means you can go ahead and actually click on a button over there. You can go ahead and open it up. You can actually make it very user interactive. It's not just a view-only type of a link. That data card has a lot of user interaction and gives you a really good user experience, good UI and good UX. Something I'm pretty excited about, the deep integration with Microsoft Teams.
One thing about, we keep saying data card, it actually is an adaptive card. So that's why I'm excited about adaptive cards. This is nothing but an adaptive card. You paste a link in Teams related to a Power App, it transforms it. It knows it's a Power App related link. There is an adaptive card baked in at the back end associated with any Power Apps links, and that card gets fired. That's what shows up right here. So I'm liking this feature because you don't want standard links to apps. You want more user-friendly experiences, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and besides the fact that how it goes ahead and presents the data in such a good UI, that's what I like. I mean, you could, even if it's presenting just data as text, it'd be useless. But that, adaptive card formatting is so much improvement as from a UI standpoint. So this has an overall wow effect. So definitely excited about this one. All right, let's quickly also talk about the concept of using Lobe inside Power Platform. So Lobe is actually a service. It is outside Microsoft. It was already used to do some training to create your own, to do machine learning to create your own AI. That can actually be used now inside Power Platform as well. Concept is the same as the AI and machine learning we have in Power Apps. You go ahead and upload images, or you go ahead and upload those Microsoft Docs like invoices. You do the training, and then you can use that training for all these other services that you're going to use inside Power Apps, like forms or business cards. Concept is the same over here. If you've already spent the time and invested the effort into doing the training in this service, which is Lobe, well, Microsoft has said, great, we'll just take all the work that you have, we'll directly go ahead and give you the flexibility to export that Lobe model and then consume it inside Power Platform to use that inside your app and flows. I'm actually excited to test this one because I just like the whole interface available. I'm sure there are people out there who are already using it. Just took so much load off them. He said, man, I don't have to redo any of this. I'll just go ahead and export it from Lobe and import that into Power Platform, and it just works. I'm pretty excited about that.
Then I actually got the opportunity to try this out. It was pretty neat. I think creating models in Lobe is a lot more intuitive than actually creating it in AI Builder, if I put it that way. I just felt it's very user-friendly. It's very easy to create models in Lobe. Train your models literally in matter of seconds, upload images, grab that model, bring it in. In fact, if you go to the next slide, the other announcement was around bringing your own models from any other AI engine of your choice, like Azure ML, AWS, and so on and so forth. So Lobe is also a part of that. So bring your own custom models into AI Builder and start leveraging them in your apps and flows.
Awesome. In fact, Reza, I'll let you even talk about this next one because that's another one that is near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, the next one is around, once again, context IQ. If you remember when we started this session, we spoke about predictive AI. Well, how about AI helping us to write code? Literally, write code inside of Power Apps. And here is an example of that. Once again, a GIF that I built. I have a gallery, and in that gallery, I have a date column that is representing data in a specific format. And I want to transform that into a different format. For example, show the month, the day, and the year. Now, from a Power FX standpoint, yeah, there are formulas that can write that, but how about AI guiding me through? I just give an example, and right at the bottom there, AI gives me the formula. I just select that formula and it gets plugged in, and that's it, it's transformed. This is known as PROS, programming by example. You train AI, and the AI responds to you with the specific formulas. This is GPT-3, which understands that natural language, so any maker can interact with AI directly inside of Power Apps. This is big. If you have never tried it, give it a shot. If you ask me how consistent this has been, yeah, it's getting there. It's improving, and I'm really looking forward to the product team and where they take this feature, where they take this feature to. I see a big future for this.
Awesome. Cool. All right, let's keep going. Embed insights via Power BI. Now, this is only going generally available. So we've actually tested this for a while, done videos on this topic as well. I'm just glad that this is now going generally available because you can take the full Power BI dashboards that you have and then directly embed that into Power Apps. As you can see, that is Power BI visualizations, which are coming in directly. The full Power BI report also can be embedded, but it's dynamic. It's not just you're getting a screenshot of a URL or just the images. You've got the ability to get those same filters that you use in the Power BI report. They get presented in the Power Apps and it uses that. So this, I wouldn't say is new. It just was announced that it is generally available. It is still big, so we thought we would at least mention that over here. We actually demoed something similar in one of our videos as well, so this was pretty neat. Cool. Let's keep going. Simple and modern experiences over Dataverse.
All right, so the new modern solution explorer, if you haven't checked that out, do give it a shot. It has this slick UI that shows all the information around your solution, from apps to bots to flows to tables and so on and so forth. The modern experience is extremely fluid in nature. So go ahead, give that a shot. It's updated UI. And then we also have the commanding designer experience for model-driven apps, wherein you can leverage PowerFX formulas in creating the command bar experience. This is something that I have done videos on. So if you want to check it out, then definitely check the videos on my channel.
Awesome. All right. Next one again is, I would say, close to my heart, just because I have had some experience with Microsoft Access. Actually, I did a 4-part series on that video, like 8-9 years ago. So Access is definitely near and dear to my heart. So this one definitely caught my attention. So I'll just dwell a little bit on what is this Access and Power Platform integration better together. So all said and done, it actually gives you now 2 options. It gives you the flexibility to using a wizard to take all of that Access database and directly move that into Dataverse. That's one option that you want. That way you don't have to worry about your Access. Specifically, if it's an on-prem Access, then you can go ahead and decommission the on-prem services that you have. That's one option. But the other flexibility is just how you can go ahead and now directly use that Access database directly into your Power Apps as well. That's another way. You can go ahead and expand basically your data scenarios that you have. You don't have to now worry about those Access forms going away. I mean, if you don't have to use the Access forms, that's fine. But you still got full fidelity for that Access database that you built in the backend, and you can go ahead and leverage that directly into your Power Platform. So I was pretty happy about this. At least the second thing which I meant is that directly leverage the Access database that you have inside Power Apps. You can go ahead and build it with your mobile applications. You can collect data from it, build automated workflows. Even you leverage that with customer-facing virtual agents. All of that flexibility is available with the direct access. Basically, there's also a Microsoft Access connector that is available. And then, just like before, there was also the migration tool. So I'm pretty happy about this, because I know there were still a lot of people who were very heavily invested in the Access database, and they actually needed something like this. But one of the other things I like, and Reza will actually talk about this, is how we look at Dataverse. Because I just said Access databases can be taken and moved into, say, Dataverse. But this is Dataverse, so take it away, Reza.
So yeah, where can you take your Access database and connect it to? Remember, this is a connection. This is not, you're bringing in that data, but it's connected. So if you make a change in Dataverse, it's going to reflect in Access. So it's connected. And when you are connecting it, you have 2 options here: Dataverse, which gives you the full feature capability, or Dataverse for Teams, which has that limited storage space and limited access kind of a scenario. So both of those features are available. Someone asked a question about licensing. If you're leveraging Dataverse, you need premium licensing. If you're leveraging Dataverse for Teams, you do not require premium licensing, but of course it comes with caveats, and this slide talks about those in much more detail. Dan, let's move to the next slide.
Cool. All right. We'll quickly go through this one. It is still important, is that you have now the data loss prevention policies for all of the on-prem, not on-prem, sorry, the Power, for all of the Power Automate, specifically to go ahead and use, I'm just drawing a blank over here as what is the Power Automate ones?
So this is desktop flows, which is
robotic process automation. Thank you. The RPA piece over there. So those connectors which were used for the RPAs, robotic process automation, you didn't have the flexibility to add them to the DLPs. Well, now you do, and it is in preview. But I'm glad, because that's kind of one of the things where you need it. If you're going to add it into Power Platform, you need that flexibility. Any connector that's available should be applied to Power Platform. Well, now it is. So that RPA connectors which are available, where you have the desktop client, you can go and do recording. Those connectors are also available now directly into the data loss policy over there. But since we are talking about the RPA piece and we are talking about AI, let's just jump into the next one, which is intelligent document processing. We've actually got some examples on that we had talked about before, but Reza, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so AI Builder table extraction just got a lot more easier. It can recognize tables now across multiple pages. Even if your tables are complex or nested, it can pick up that kind of information. Another one that I liked, which kind of went under the hoods, is the ability to even read information of checkboxes. So if you have a form that has checkboxes, now AI Builder can intelligently read that information as well. Then next slide.
Yep. And then since we are talking about AI, let's talk about the AI which is built into the Power FX. Adding the AI model to an app, referencing model from any controls using Power FX. This functionality is now currently in public preview. They said next week, which pretty much is going to be next week since the Ignite ended today, this week. But this, the AI integration directly in Power FX is also going to be available in preview. It was announced over there. You can actually see some examples which were put in, especially about the Power FX, how you reference from any of the controls. So you've actually got a control, and you can go ahead and reference the text piece of that control directly using these functions. The function like predict is one of the AI model reference control for that AI model. And then using that, I'm using Power FX and its ability to help you write those the syntax clearly. You can go ahead and directly use that. So Power FX with AI integration directly inside Power Apps. Pretty neat. Cool. So what's going to happen now is we've talked about Power Platform. We've talked about all these other things. We are now going to spend a lot of time, the next few minutes, Power Platform collaboration within teams. So I really liked when we were able to go ahead and look at this. Like the whole collaboration of teams with Power Platform. In fact, these statistics that was shared over here was pretty important as well. Is that just because of using teams, there has been a growth of Power Apps, twice as amount of growth and a 10% increase of all the Power Apps users. This just shows how much of an effect Teams has had in the Power Platform. So I was pretty, impressed, and I liked how Eric Ryan went and wear the hashtag Let's Code More Power shirt when he was actually demoing this in Ignite. So major kudos to him on that. But specifically these two numbers really stuck well with me. Is how much of an impact Teams has had on the Power Platform. So let's quickly talk about some of these features that are coming out. Coming soon, there's going to be more templates available directly inside the Power Platform store, specifically the Power Automate templates. And we've always seen these templates. We've seen it on Power Apps Canvas app as well. But there's just going to be more and more coming out. So that's why they said coming soon on SaaS. That's the something we've seen before. It's just nice to know. Here is the big one. So let's actually stop over here and talk and just kind of talk about. We just talked about co-authoring and adding comments a few seconds ago. Reza actually had created a video. He actually showed how he did that. This is different. This is the co-presence of using Teams directly on embedding the Teams chat when you're going and working inside the Power Apps over here. So here's on the top right, you will have the ability to actually click on that messenger icon, and that will embed the Teams chat right here. And that Teams chat gets recorded inside Teams. So you can do co-presence on Dataverse records. You can go ahead and talk about, how you want to build the app or how you want to use the app. All of this conversation now happens inside Dataverse of Teams. So the key thing over here is this is happening when you're using the app, not when you're building the app. See that the key difference between the two? That's what shows where everything is used. Because you might ask the question is then, well, what's the reason of having two of them? Well, no, that's two separate scenarios. One of the chatting ones, the one we just showed before, was when you're actually inside the studio building it together. This one is more when to see who's active while the app is being used, and that's where the conversation goes over there. You got anything to add there, Reza?
Pretty neat. Collaboration with Teams right here inside of the app building experience takes it literally to the next level. And co-presence, you can see who's there, who's chatting, who's building, what are they trying to accomplish. All of that right there in that same experience. Collaboration at its best.
Cool. Yep. Right. Notify team users when proactive messages are there. The key thing about this one is you're able to post the messages using both adaptive cards, but also adaptive cards with responses. We've gone and showed two examples. One is how you're able to leverage Power Automate. There is actually the Power Automate action right here for Teams, and then how it goes ahead and presents itself directly inside the team over here. So that was actually currently in public preview. But the key thing is you're able to notify the team users with a proactive message. So it's not going to be such as somebody went in there and started typing something, and then there's a reaction to that. This is being proactive. It's something will show up directly inside your chat proactively, and then you go and respond to it. That is the key difference. Proactive messages. Pretty impressed on that.
Pretty neat.
Right.
Pretty neat here. And the two key things I want to call out right here: adaptive cards, waiting for a response. Think about this: post a card with the flow or with the Power Automate flow that you built, and the flow will wait for the response. And this adaptive card that you post can also go from a Power Virtual Agent chatbot now. All of this in preview, but bear in mind that these are all capabilities that are coming with some really neat features.
Cool.
Okay, let's
All right,
move.
I'm excited. Man, we've covered so much. We've got so much more to cover. So let's kind of go really fast over here, right? Neat. Like still excitement. But we've got SharePoint. We can't go fast. We can't say, ignore SharePoint. SharePoint is, our first, at least my first true love when it came to Microsoft 365. That's a different story. But Jeff Keeper, CVP, his session where he had so many other people, talking over there was actually a really nice session. If you haven't had time, invest that 40 minutes because there were some really good nuggets which were shared. We'll share those nuggets with you right now, but I highly recommend you going and watching that session as well. But in the beginning, I really liked it when Navjot went ahead and shared this stats over here. A couple of things which caught my attention was faster performance, both from a download and upload, definitely more storage. But look at that, 200 plus data centers across 34 countries. What this tells me is that they're preparing themselves for anything. When more and more people start adopting the cloud, that's another big thing, but they're really preparing themselves in their data source. This is what defines the power of Microsoft. But the other thing which caught our attention, and Navjot was the one that actually explained it, was this little one, Microsoft Workflow. It's basically a migration tool, but you can now migrate workflow migrations. Basically, all your SharePoint workflows, which were, the two kinds, 2010, 2013, you can now migrate those workflows to Power Automate. Let that sink into your head for a minute. You have a tool which will take your workflows that you created on SharePoint on-prem, the 2010 or 2013 workflows. They will actually now, this tool can migrate that into your into SharePoint Online. Now, one thing I know, when Reza and I looked at this, we got super stoked, super excited, but we said, well, this is something we will be cautiously optimistic with because there's not enough information given right now. I mean, there are these, she went and shared this slide deck of this is how it works. You can go ahead and name your migration tool. Your migration step, you can go and review it, and then all the migration happens. But this is something that I will have to test a little bit more because we just need to know, what are there any specific things that will work? Are there only workflows? What are the, does and do and do nots for it to be successful? But make no mistake, this is still big. There are still people on-prem who are moving up to the cloud. This has been one of the biggest concerns is that, hey, I can move content to the cloud. There is already third parties available. It's my workflows. What do I do with it? And they stepped up and they answered that question. So what are your thoughts on this one, Reza?
So relevance, yes. Is this out yet? No. I tried it last night. I actually installed Migration Manager. That's where you go in M365. There's a tool known as SMAT, SharePoint Migration Tool, I believe. And once you launch that tool, you'll get this ability to connect to your SharePoint on-premises sites. I'm not sure whether it will migrate both 2010 and 2013 at the moment. However, this is something to investigate. Simple workflows, complex workflows. I have my doubts.
My gut says, yeah,
it's something to check.
Yeah, my gut feeling says that this will at least migrate 2010.
Yeah.
2013, we'll have to see because of the big, workflow manager. we'll have to see workflow managers and service buses. Oh man, that brought back bad memories. Anyway, let's keep going on. One of the things was, and this SharePoint admins, you will love this because now you have this additional column to see private channels. Well, what that means, okay? So any of these three sites you have over here, these are the teams. When a team is generated, it goes ahead and creates this SharePoint site. But it also tells you, thanks to this new column, that, hey, that team also has 2 private channels, which means inside that main site, you've got 2 other subsites or 3 other subsites. This was so difficult to identify before. In fact, when I posted a picture of this on social media yesterday, one of the person responded back like, Daniel, thank you for sharing this. this was actually one of the reasons why they had disabled private chats, because they were spending way too much time trying to identify that. Now it is directly provided over here. You can go to your SharePoint Admin Center. By the way, this feature will be available in SharePoint Admin Center. It will also be available in your Team Admin Center. You'll be able to go and get more information, such as you can come here to click on each and every one of the sites, see the properties, and you'll be able to see that. I am super stoked about this one, Reza. It's just making your life a lot more easier from an.
So why is it? So why is this important? Well, private channels that you create.
Other things to talk about.
Sorry, Dan. Can you hear me? I'm audible. So one last thing I wanted to add on the previous one is private channels that you create at the back end, they create a separate site collection. So the security is different for a private channel. That's why this is extremely important. I just want to highlight that fact out. Let's keep moving.
Yep, good point. Data access governance is a little bit different, not from the the security and the compliance, but here's the big one. Is now they've actually taken it to one step further. That if you've gone ahead and that SharePoint site created for whatever reason, created for an M365 group or a standalone SharePoint site, the moment you start going ahead and sharing any of those links for individual links or people in your organization or specific ones, it'll also tell you how the links were shared. Were they shared externally? Were they just shared to anyone? This detail is now going to be available under the reporting section of SharePoint, and you'll be able to go and get more information such as how many of these links from this site were shared. What is the sensitivity level tied to it? Were any of them sites have external access turned on? Like, this detailed information in your reporting is really going to make you feel a lot better, specifically for those sites where you're going to go ahead and turn on the external access for your external people, such as a guest user. This will help you understand where all and how much of that is going on from a SharePoint perspective. I think a lot of security and compliance people are going to be in a much better relief to see this type of data openly available to have planned for that. Pretty interesting needs. And then you can apply your sensitivity labels again to the same thing to go ahead and add more labels directly to that. But the important thing about the sensitivity labels is not just applying it and hey, it looks good. That sensitivity label is going to give you this huge step up, because we all know, everybody knows, there are always those SharePoint sites which needs Uber level security. Like, that site is going to be saving important information, or hey, it's going to be used by executive team because there's going to be a merger that's happening, or there's a change which is coming in your company. They want to make sure nobody has access to that site except the executive team. MFA will be applied over there to take that security to the next level. This is also big, because I've already had discussions with people talking about this. Is that, man, I wish there was a next level security for SharePoint for those really highly important sites. Adding MFA is the big one over there. You got anything, Reza, to add there?
I think very similar to the announcement around adding MFA, conditional access policies. This basically is that.
Yeah.
It is conditional access policies for your SharePoint sites, which adds that additional layer of security.
Cool. All right. So now let's go and we saw all the cool stuff from the admin standpoint. Let's look at it from the end user standpoint. Beautiful things about simplifying content creation with templates. In fact, a lot of us use these list templates a lot, adding more and more functionality for both the site templates, list templates, page templates. Other thing about just providing the templates is accessing the site template gallery. You are able to go ahead and now directly apply a site template from the settings standpoint. You can go ahead and have a dialogue on the first visit to a new site. Basically, it'll detect to see who is the first person to that site, so you can actually add more dialogue and making sure that there's correct templates applied. And then there's also you can customize your next steps panel. All of this now directly available inside SharePoint. Just more add-ons from an end user perspective. Pretty much excited about this one.
These are cool features. Templatizing, save site as template is something we used to do a lot in classic SharePoint. It's not there in modern, but you have the ability to create templates through basic JSON and PowerShell scripting. So that's something that you need to be aware of inside of modern SharePoint, and that gives you the ability for templates. And not just templates now. What about your creators? For pages, you have the ability to create private drafts. That is really, really important, because I don't want my page to go out immediately. I want to keep it in private before I finalize it. And then it goes into a status where other users can see it and goes through an approval process. Microsoft Editor integration. As I'm typing into those text containers or those text web parts in SharePoint, Microsoft Editor will run spell check for you right there. Plus, you have the ability to add images inline into that text box experience. And one thing, if you observe closely, you can even position the image and text next to it. So that gives a very fluid experience to your page creation experience. And
It does. It does. I like how the alignment can be changed over there. Yep.
yeah,
Pretty neat. So all in all, here are the three important things. What is going to be rolling out now, coming soon, and things that they are keeping on the top of the mind. So we'll keep a quick here another for 5 seconds just so you can see. We just talked about some of these things over here on the rolling out side. Coming soon. We briefly covered those from the some of the images, the slides we covered, but things that they're keeping on the top of the mind is also important. Teams Connect, and then shared channels, how those are going to work from a SharePoint perspective. We'll talk a little bit about that, but this is just a quick overview on it.
Yeah.
We cannot stop SharePoint until and unless we have covered this. Is that SharePoint tenant can be renamed. This is currently in public preview. They intentionally kept this towards the end. So what this means is that there were you had a SharePoint site, you had a URL, and you couldn't do anything with it. In fact, when people were merged companies, they would actually have to do a lot of migrations just for this one sake for a SharePoint perspective. Now it's in public preview. They're going to give you that flexibility to go ahead and change that URL. This is great, but Reza and I do have a few things we need to call out, because remember, SharePoint URL will be changed, which means the first thought that Reza and I had was, well, that can potentially affect Power Platform connectors. So 3 things we already verified and confirmed was this will affect your Power Apps, Power Automate, and your Power BI connectors. Those are the 3 big ones. And then Microsoft has actually called that out as well, is that just be prepared for that. Currently, it's in public preview, so by the time this thing goes GA, they might find a way to figure out fixing that as well. We just don't know. But we just wanted to call that out, is that URLs is a big thing. And when we make those connectors, it references the URL, references the site, it references the list, document library. So as of right now, if you're up in the public preview or when you're testing it, it will break. So kind of keep that in mind. Anything else, Reza, on that one?
No, I think let's move on. We've got
Cool.
around 10 minutes and 3 topics, so we need to breeze through these. So I'll cover lists. Microsoft Lists had some. So Microsoft Lists had some really, really cool announcements. One of them was the ability to visualize your list data in something known as a board view. A board view where basically you have groupings of cards, which is basically your list data. And not just that, it's very similar to Planner, actually, if you think about it. And if you go to the next slide, Dan, you also have the ability inside this board view to literally select a record or an item in a SharePoint list, or a card in this case, and drag and drop it across the boards. So inherently, it is actually going to change the backend property of that list item. So as an example here, I'm moving a card from the new application category board to the on hold category board. So it will actually go and even change the metadata associated with that list item on the fly right here, which is extremely neat.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is, we just took a screenshot of this, but this is, you can take it and then move it. You have the ability to do that. But here is another big wow factor. And then Reza and I got excited about this one. But as you can see, you can now package it as your template. So before, in the past, and Reza talked about this, he's actually demoed it before as well, is that when we had to move a SharePoint list across different tenants, your dev, prod, whatever, you would have to sometimes package these separately. You would have to package your list. You would have to package your Power Automate and your flow and your apps separately. Now you can package them together as one template. And this is coming from a list standpoint. And then you can go ahead and packaging it. When you move across, it will also tell you, hey, I'm setting this up. You're almost there. Go ahead and move all of this stuff together. It's kind of packaging this together. This is going to make life so much more easier. Instead of dealing with all of those separately, like a list, app, and a flow separately, you can package them together. Now, think of this purely from a list standpoint, from a SharePoint standpoint. This is not happening from a Power Platform standpoint. So one thing we want to call out was This is not the solutions from a Power Platform. This is purely from the Microsoft form. The Microsoft lists, which is the SharePoint lists all working together. Got anything to add to that, Reza?
Yep. SharePoint customized list forms using Power Apps. How do you take it from one environment or one site to another? Here's your answer. How do I take a connected flow? Here's your answer. How do I take a connected rule? Here's your answer. So for SharePoint folks, this is a big announcement. Microsoft List is SharePoint at the back end. So I think this is going to help a lot. It's going to help me a lot as well, because most of my videos are related to SharePoint lists. I can't package it, but guess what? I can do it now, and we can move it ahead.
Cool. All right.
And let's move ahead.
Yep. Key things. Yeah, go ahead, Reza.
So fast and offline access to list data is another key feature. List have the ability to take things offline, and that syncs up automatically. This is available on your Windows device through, of course, the OneDrive Sync app. So you need to have that installed. And of course, there are going to be limits. One of them is that your list has to contain less than 250,000 items. That's still pretty high, but you need to keep that in mind.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, improvements to list editors and formatters. There are plenty here, but one of that I would like to clearly call out, and that's on the next slide, is the new rich text editor experience. I actually tried this out last night, and this is a GIF of what I was trying out. In the quick edit view or in the grid view experience itself, you have the ability to make modifications to a rich text field. Check that out. Yeah. I added an image inline, text inline, formatting inline. You have undo, you have redo. You'll really have the full experience brought here to the power of lists. Another biggie that got announced and was kind of kept pretty low-key was the feature of lookup columns. So if you've ever created a lookup column in modern SharePoint, it takes you to the classic experience. Why? Because the lookup columns were never modernized, but now they are. This is coming soon. It's not yet there, but lookup columns will have this modern experience wherein you can create the column on the fly in the list creation experience itself, which is pretty neat.
Yep. Cool. And so here's just an overview of basically the Microsoft Lists roadmap. Gives you an overview of what's going to be rolling out versus what's coming soon. Just, gives you something to keep in the back of your mind. All right. We cannot leave without talking about Microsoft Teams. And the big one for Microsoft Teams was Mesh for Microsoft Teams. So I'm excited about this one. I'm actually going to prep, get myself my Oculus and prep for this. But the whole concept of Mesh is to basically introduce a new generation of 2-dimensional or even 3-dimensional meetings. And then it will always have your avatar and use AI to go ahead and initiate the movements, little movements, gestures, and all of that. Mesh it's going to make things very interesting. I really enjoy it. I'm kind of excited about this one. What do you think, Reza? Are you excited about this one?
I am. It's actually augmented reality in action right here. So interesting because I know it says Mesh, but it can give you a lot of cool features like whiteboarding together. It gives you that immersive experience, and especially now during the times that we live in, we are all remote, but I think this gives that more cohesive experience.
I think I'll have more time personalizing my avatar. I might spend more time playing with that one. Cool. Let's scan through a few updates to the Microsoft Teams meeting experience, helping you going ahead and improving on the user interface. So here's some of the examples that we had. Ability to go ahead and add the users, ordering raise hands. It tells you that. This is important, right? Because when you would be on calls and somebody, you have questions come up, now it will tell you, hey, this person raised the hand first, so on and so forth. Ability to go ahead and hide me, even though I'm sharing my camera, I can go and hide myself. There's just a lot of UI and UX experiences specifically for the users from this team side. So I personally, if I looked at all of them, the order of the hands raising is the big one for me. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. There were other announcements also around webinars wherein you have green rooms now. So the moderator and the speaker can go to the green room before they push them out to the actual live event. So a lot of cool announcements around meetings that were very highly requested. And all of those are coming soon to the new Teams meeting experience.
Yeah. In fact, the Teams Connect is actually one of those functionalities, is to go ahead and now seamlessly collaborate across multiple organizations. We'll actually talk a little bit more about the next slide, which is the channels. So we all know about the standard channel. We all know about the private channel. There is a shared channel coming out. The flexibility to go ahead and now share seamlessly across teams and org boundaries. Org boundaries basically means across your companies, where you don't have to go and do tenant switching anymore. You don't have to go ahead and avoid, tenant switching was the big one, because back in the Skype days, we didn't have to do that. But recently in the Teams, we have had to. So that was big. It's like the cool feature about Skype is going to be brought into Teams. So no tenant switching. This actually was the big one that caught my attention. Ooh, I've always wanted this from day one. They're going to go ahead and bring this up. So it sounds like it is a shared channel. This one caught my attention. But any of these that really popped out to you, Reza?
So I think the important thing now for a team owner or a member to understand is the channel types, right? It's important to know what type of channel you have, and there are nice visual indicators for that. Standard channel, members, owners have full access to it. Private channels has their own security, and shared channels is when you're collaborating with external users. So let's keep all of these three things in mind when you are inside of Microsoft Teams. The entire spectrum is available for you now.
Reza, this is cool, but I really feel like telling the Teams admins that may the force be with you, because this is going to be interesting. So, all right, this actually just adds on to the same thing. Is working with people outside the team or tenant, talks about the whole collaboration piece. So falls into the same thing about org across tenants as well. But we could not leave without even talking about this, because this was just a little blurb. It was actually mentioned in one of the blogs that was released on that day. Ability to go ahead and use Clipchamp. They've added that to the Microsoft, the Office family. But this is going to help you to go ahead and edit your videos. And as you both know, Reza and I both go and build videos. We do a lot of video editing. So this kind of caught our attention. I don't think it got any attention outside, but we just wanted to bring that up. No other comments on this one. All right, let's jump into OneDrive. So OneDrive, again, it's deep integration inside Microsoft Teams, but OneDrive, we know that those meetings which are going to be saved, which are recorded and are going to be saved, they are going to be saved depending on your OneDrive or on SharePoint. But you've got now video transcription directly, and these video transcriptions will be saved in your OneDrive. So it's going to do it dynamically based on and tagging based on who's talking. And you can see it's not just text, it's actually capturing the whole profile of the user, because you can see that profile over there. But this will also be saved directly. The video transcription will be saved in your OneDrive. So that's a big one. It's not just videos, the transcription as well. Other things we want to talk about is OneDrive will now have the options to go ahead and pin quick access. So you don't have to go in and keep digging for that file. You can just take the file and you can pin it, and then the pinning can be directly on your home page, or or on where you directly come into the home page of your OneDrive. I do like that pin functionality, because there are those files that we will always need to access. Gives you that flexibility to now pin for a much faster quick access. So all in all, here is the roadmap for OneDrive, what is going to be rolling out soon or available, and these are the things that are coming out pretty soon, coming soon kind of a deal. What else? Reza, any thoughts you have on OneDrive?
Well, I think those were some of the announcements. There were a lot more announcements around Mac operating systems. So folks who wanted things like known folder move and syncing and all those capabilities are coming there as well. There was a session on this. I forgot the session code, but do check it out if you're interested in knowing what's the future of OneDrive. And to close this out, I would like to say big thank you to all of you guys. I have been on the chat. I know Dan's running the presentation, but Dan, I can tell you this much: the chat has been extremely active. And this now is the opportunity for you to go ahead and tell us how the session was. If you have any specific questions related to the announcements, you can call those out. We're going to open the floor for 2 or 3 minutes of quick Q&A before we close out the session today. But I would like to say a big thank you to everyone.
Yep, we do have to do one thing. Like we said, we're going to be taking a break. So this is the time that we are going to call out our winners of the hashtag. So I'm going to refresh my Power BI report one last time just to make sure we get. And Reza and I, we looked at this and we were always, first of all, wowed by that. So all said and done, we are now going to pick the top 3. And so there you go. These are our top 3 winners. Thank you so much. There is Oscar, Baidi, and then Ricardo. Thank you so much. You are the top 3 winners. So besides the fact that I'm giving you the wow factor over here, is I want to Reza and I will make sure we have one-on-one time with you. Basically, it'll be you and then Reza and I, and then we'll just jam together. Power Platform stuff, SharePoint stuff, we'll just jam together. But I just from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We just cannot thank you enough for how you've taken and advertised our show on the social media. And each and every time, I know Oscar and Vaidi, you guys always attend our show. Vaidi, I cannot thank you enough for those amazing thumbnails that you've always built for us. We'll be reaching out to you because I think after we come back from the break, we're not even going to waste any time on that. We'll probably just own it. But thank you so much for that. We really do. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And this session, I'm getting a lot of questions around, will this be available? This will be available on demand on my channel right when I click the end broadcast button in the next 15 seconds. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you guys again next year. Happy holidays. Stay safe and stay connected. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.